Okay, yeah, we're going to call it. Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Councillor Hanna.
Moved by Hannah, second by McConkey, the regular council meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of October the 19th, 2016, come to order at 6:32 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. And I'd ask you to stand if you're able for the national anthem and then remain standing for a moment of reflection. Councillor Austin will lead us.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Ask to remain standing if you're able for a moment of private reflection or private prayer. Please be seated. I was going to spend possibly an extra moment in silence for the Jays, but it's not quite there yet. But it is 3-0, unfortunately. So do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest of any matters on the agenda tonight from any of the council? Okay, seeing none. Before I go into the deputation, I think Councillor Ritchie has something he wanted to say.
Thank you, Mayor French. At the council meeting on September the 21st, when we were discussing taxes in general, I made a comment about Councillor Austin's political affiliation in jest. The mayor called my comment of order, out of order at the time, and I just want to apologize to Councillor Austin for the comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, we have a deputation delegation with Alan Jackson. Please come forward. And a reminder, as soon as you start, we'll start the clock, and it's 10 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I've been asked.
If you could sit down, that would be great, so we can pick you up in the microphone, please.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I am here on behalf of a large group of people that have objected to a recommendation that was put forth to council here on basically the destruction or the sale of Sherwood Hill, as we call it. Sherwood Hill should really be called Sherwood Forest. Renee, is this my button? Thank you. Can I do it? Wow, look at that. Okay, so here's Sherwood Hill. Okay. Well, okay, so much for that. What button am I not pushing right? That's the one I'm pushing. Oh, that one, the green one. There we go. Oh, to the right. I'm with you. There we go. Okay, we the residents of Midhurst who reside near Sherwood Hill. We do thank you for allowing us to express our views regarding the RIC Consultant Recommendation Number 70, which identifies Sherwood Hill as surplus vacant land and is seeking council's direction. This is the actual recommendation that you find in the recreation plan, and it's putting Sherwood Hill up possibly for sale, which we obviously object to. This is a particular picture of Sherwood Hill, and as you can see, there's about 24 homes that surround Sherwood Hill. Sherwood Hill is no longer Sherwood Hill. Maybe it was 35 or 40 years ago, but it is now Sherwood Forest, and it is home to many of the creatures that we know of today. On September 27th, Council requested Township staff provide a topographical map of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan to determine the percentage of green space parkland within the community. And I understand that this is actually on today's agenda. I think it's item number 12, where you're asking staff to put an inventory together of township parkland. The only comment that I would have on that, there's no timetable. There's no negotiated timetable between staff and council as to when staff should present this inventory to council. And I would like to see you fix that little item up. We, the residents of Midhurst, do not want any parkland in Springwater Township to become surplus. Every tree that's out there in Midhurst, every tree that's here, if you cut down so much as one tree in Midhurst, Midhurst will be diminished. Just one little action by council to take down any live tree is diminishing the value that we hold dearly in Midhurst. We also object to the parklands, green spaces being considered wasteland. I've seen that word around. I've seen vacant land around. I've seen surplus land, and I've seen open space. It's a forest. It's inhabited. It's mature trees all over. Okay. Parkland and green spaces, we all know this, it's common sense, contribute to the quality of life for its residences. These parklands and green spaces makes our Midhurst community unique. Just compare Midhurst and what we have here in the township of Springwater with what you see when you drive 5 minutes south of here. You get a tree for every 20 houses, and it's stunted. Living with nature makes people healthier and reduces stress. I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch all the creatures go about their business. There's environmental benefits of trees, oxygen producers, soil erosion protection, and so on and so on and so on and so on. This is a lot of common sense, but it doesn't hurt for us to point it out once again. Sherwood Hill is not just viewed by residents who back onto the hill. It is a high elevation. It's probably 30 or 40 feet up. The trees of Sherwood Hill are like a beacon which can be seen over a kilometer away. This is a very beautiful picture if it was larger. I would invite all of you to come to this position today and take a look at Sherwood Hill and take a look at the colors that it is for everybody to see. Come in February and see what this looks like with the snow that's on it. And the trees and the green spaces are very important to all aspects of our life. Okay? Sherwood Hill is home to a diverse ecosystem of wildlife. We have all the common wildlife: raccoons, skunks, crows, squirrels, rabbits, chipmunks, snakes, mice, and moles. Birds just live in it. There's see hawks, woodpeckers, coyote, and foxes have all been seen on the hill. And this picture at the bottom here, the pileated woodpeckers, they're not something that you commonly see. This is woody woodpecker, and that's my backyard. Okay? Sherwood Hill is a protected old-growth forest. Pines and oak trees are approximately 100 years old. It's practically impossible to walk through Sherwood Forest because of the high density of foliage that's there. Oak trees standing 40, 50 feet high. Maple trees that are going up to 60, 75 feet. It takes 30 to 40 years for a maple tree to reach maturity. It takes exactly 5 seconds to bring it down. The rezoning and sale of Sherwood Hill for future development poses a risk of erosion to its residents and risk to the natural aquifer and drinking wells that flow below it. Our well is right below the foothills of Sherwood Hill. Very close. Sherwood Hill has been protected by the Ministry of Natural Resources in the past, and it has restricted any development even by the residents who actually own portions of this hill for the past 30 years. This is a quote out of a deed of land dated August 11th, 1986, that no one can place or remove, fill, or alter existing vegetation beyond the line of setback. It's protected area. No construction or building or other structures except those required for flood or erosion control or, you know, to protect us from any kind of flooding. But you can't touch in any area behind the setback. This here's the actual document from the Ministry of Natural Resources. The developer shall not place or, or remove, fill, or alter existing vegetation beyond the line of setback. The barrier shall remain in place until all construction and grading of each lot involved has been completed and approved by the township. No construction of buildings or other structures except those required for flood or erosion control purposes or vegetation disturbance. This is from the ministry, the lands for municipal purposes. This land was put aside sometime 35, 40 years ago for a purpose. And it wasn't, it's for parkland, it's for people to enjoy. Why would we even think about touching it today? The sale of green space parkland to fund special interest groups does not represent the interest of all residents. Now, it doesn't represent the interest of any one person in Midhurst or any place else. It's a loss to all its residents. And we would ask, what do you want the money for? Would the profit from this Midhurst loss even be invested in Midhurst, or is it likely to be invested in other springwater communities? For example, this Midhurst loss invested in Elmville. But anyways, what do you want the money for? What are you going to do with it? You can't replace it. The other thing is, right now, the town, our village of Midhurst is under attack by the secondary plan. I
2
mean, we
minutes.
already have people trying to destroy our living environment. And to have our own council to ever approve this action of destroying Sherwood Hill is unthinkable. Let's continue to deal with these people that are presently attacking us. Okay? The homes that back onto Sherwood Hill have in effect purchased that property. Many years ago, a developer got approval to build 25, 35, 40 homes, I don't know how many, but that land, he or she would have purchased it. The cost of that land, Sherwood Hill, would have been apportioned to all the homes that are surrounding that hill at the time. So this property is, I know it's not legal, but it's essentially owned by the people that purchased in this development 35, 40 years ago. Okay? The original developer put this property in trust to Vesper Township for the purpose of maintenance only. It's not for this council to sell or touch. This council election platform just 2 years ago was leadership, agriculture, and environment. We voted you to office to keep this commitment and be good stewards for our green spaces and parklands, and we're holding you to it. We request that council September 27th receipt of our petition and submit it again now be formally noted in these council minutes. We request that Sherwood Hill remain protected by the Ministry of Natural Resources. We request that Springwater Township adopt a green space policy which protects the environment and its residents. We request that council keep all residents with a 1 kilometer radius of Sherwood Hill. I'm going to change that just to everybody should be notified, not just by putting some note on some screen, township screen. I think it has to be in writing. Okay. Anyways, the conclusion is, we presented a petition to council with 80+ signatories. These residents are objecting to any thought of disposing of Sherwood Hill. The canvassers that obtained the signatures found that the residents, without question, were against the destruction of green space. 80 signatures were received. And I was one of the ones canvassing, and I can tell you, getting 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 signatures would be a very easy job to do. I had a call just 15 minutes before I came here from someone wanting to sign this petition. And I said it wasn't necessary, but I'm going to make the point that we could get 1,000, 1,500, we could get every resident in Midhurst, in the township, to sign against council ever approving the cutting down of any one tree. We insist that council adopts this conclusion. We insist that council eliminates any uncertainty in this matter, and that you take a vote that once and for all will put an end to the suggestion that Sherwood Hill is up for sale. It bothers us, knowing that there's something out there that you can destroy our very living space. And we like to sleep at nights, and we like to be happy watching what's going on in that forest. We just don't want you to touch it. We want to know that you're not going to touch it now, not 6 months from now. Okay? So that's the into my slideshow, I do have one little gift.
Yeah, actually, your time is up, so that's good, and I
can I just
appreciate
have
the
30
presentation.
seconds?
No, I'm going to go to the council for questions now.
Okay, just
of
30
them.
seconds.
No, I've given you extra minute as it is, a minute and a
I
half.
won't say anything then.
Okay,
I won't say anything.
so I'll go to council. Is there any questions here?
This here is
Councillor Hannah.
some whiteout.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My question to Mr. Allen is what is it you would like to present us, and you've already done it?
Oh, this is whiteout, Vicks whiteout, it's correction tape. It's for you to use on just whiting out that section there where it says that you are going to consider even doing anything to Sherwood Hill. It's whiteout, it says here it's correction tape.
Thank you,
Well,
Mr. Jackson.
We appreciate
It
the,
says to fix mistakes fast, superior coverage, great for office.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think you did an excellent presentation, and I want to thank you.
okay,
I'd also like to state that when I alerted the residents to this recommendation, it wasn't to alarm people, it was to let the residents know the possibility that was being considered, not to alarm people. It's nice to see the residents are prepared to step up when they see things they don't agree with and bring it to council so we can be aware of how our taxpayers feel, and so we can make decisions consistent with that. So I'd say I wasn't trying to alarm people, I just want to make people aware. Given my past experience sitting in this chair, I believe if you're not aware of what's going on, decisions are made that can't be turned over because the decision's already made. That was my motive. Thank you.
Councillor Austin?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. You described in great detail all the wonderful natural features of Sherwood Hill, in particular the old growth trees and the animals and birds that live in there. Keeping that in mind, how would you and your surrounding community around Sherwood Hill feel about the possibility of the township putting recreational trails in there so that residents from all over the township and even outside might have an opportunity to walk through that forested area?
Well, on that question, I can't really respond to it without speaking to our friends back here.
Can you speak on your behalf as an individual?
Pardon?
Can you answer for yourself? How would you feel, or would you have any objection? I'm not saying that it might happen,
No.
but
We had, if I go back a few years ago.
Can you
we-
sit down so we can hear you in the microphone?
Oh, okay. I thought I was speaking loud enough for everybody, but, a few years ago, I used to notice children playing back there. It is a little dangerous at this point in time to have kids running around there. You get poked in the eye by a branch or some other little thing. And the way I would feel there is an entrance on Diamicus, an area that you can go in on Diamicus Street. And I would see nothing wrong with having a trail through there, a little walking trail that people can go in the mornings or just walk through. I think that would be a great idea, you know?
Okay. Councillor Coghlan?
Sorry, I just have a question about your reason number 9.
Yeah?
If you can pull that back up, if that's possible.
What, number 9?
Yeah, I didn't grasp what you were. Thank you.
Oh, on this slide?
Yes, this slide.
Well, what the idea of, I mean, I'm not a politician and I don't buy land, but a developer comes in, a developer is required to, he gets approval to put in 50 homes. A developer is also required to put in sidewalks and roads and put in spaces for parkland. And the developer's purchased all this property. And this property that he has to set aside for the vacant land, for the parkland or whatever else, is added back to the cost of the
Okay.
home that people buy.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was maybe to Director Spagno. It says protected by the MNR. If it's protected by the MNR, then why it wouldn't be on our recreation master plan? I'm curious about that.
Director
Okay, you're asking
Spagno?
somebody back there.
Through Mayor French to Councillor Coghlan. As far as the protection goes from the MNR, I'm not familiar with the restriction, but I can say that from a zoning perspective, the property is actually zoned open space. which actually means that it's to be kept in its natural state. So that would be almost in line with the direction provided within the M&R restriction. I'm not sure the origin of that, but I can verify that the zoning is actually for open space on that portion of the property.
So just as a follow-up, so you're saying that it is restricted anyway, so it wouldn't have even been a successful recommendation had we actually gone to the next step?
Through Mayor French to Councillor Coghlan, there would need to be, in order to provide for any type of development rights on the property, there would need to be a zoning bylaw amendment application, along with any other application to subdivide and do other things, which are all subject to notification to the surrounding residents. So as the property sits right now, it is to be kept in its natural state, and if there was any applications to move forward to do anything, there would be a process under the Planning Act that would require notification of the residents. There is no active applications on that property as we speak right now.
Councillor Austin?
Through you, Mayor French, to the Planning Department. Is there any spot in the circumference of the streets surrounding Sherwood Hill where there is a possibility for a road to be put in to that Sherwood Forest if it ever were to be developed? Would there be a space for road allowance to access it?
Director Spagno?
Mayor French, through you to Councillor Austin. If you talk to any engineer, they'll say that they can engineer anything. And that's not a knock on engineers because they're solution-oriented. But I think when you take a look at the slopes on the property, just the lay of the land, it would be difficult, I think, to bring a road in for development on the hill. And not being an engineer, that's my opinion, but just taking a look at the slopes, I think it would be difficult.
I don't think we want to get into that kind of detail, because right now, I think the point is it's open space. You can't build anything on it. Effectively, you'd have to go through the whole exercise. I'm not even sure how it's designated in our official plan. There may be a couple steps that would be required. It would be a long process, it'd be a heck of a lot of notification, and we'd have a lot more people here than we do tonight. So I don't think that is kind of the particular issue. But to kind of move this forward, what I would like to do, Councillor McConkey has a notice of motion, and it may kind of alleviate some concerns. And I wouldn't mind jumping to item 12 on the agenda and invite Councillor McConkey to put forward her motion.
I would like to put forward my motion, but I'd almost like to change the last sentence, and I don't know if I am allowed to amend a motion at this stage because it wasn't something that was following with the staff report.
Okay, Councillor McConkey.
Okay, I'd like to ask through the mayor to the CAO, how long do you feel that this report would take?
Geo Brindley.
Through Mayor French to Councillor McConkey, we had a quick talk amongst the staff, and our goal would be second meeting in November, but I'd ask the latitude to make the meeting in December, so within that horizon. So I would say for the resolution, say, to ensure that the report is to council by the meeting in December.
Okay, I Recreation Master Plan concerning the sale of parkland become a priority to review, and that staff provide council with a report that outlines all parkland in each ward and identifies those that may be considered as potential sale, and that council determine the sale and/or protection of parkland once a report is provided, and consider any M&R restrictions with a report in early December.
Does everybody understand that? Questions? Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, and I'm the seconder on this, and Councillor McConaughey and I have talked about it, but I'm just concerned that this is opening the door to the sale of parkland versus saying we're not considering selling parkland, and that's sort of how it reads to me. I don't know if the residents can read it up there or not, but it sort of suggests that we're considering selling parkland, and I just have concerns with that portion of it.
Councillor McConaughey.
My comment to that is that I didn't want to, last council meeting, I did ask, there was 2 other properties of parkland that were for sale, and I asked the councillors how they felt on that parkland, and there was no comment. So until I understand, I'm glad, we're quite aware of how the residents of Midhurst feel, and that is fantastic that you have delivered your message. And to make a decision, if we were to say that no sale of parkland, I don't know if I'm making a proper decision without the information, understanding where the pieces of parkland are. So that could be the end result of that in the end. But I would just like to have all of the information in front of me, and the councillors of that ward understand which parkland could be there, so that then they can comment and they can take that judgment call. Because there might be a piece out there in a rural area that I don't know about, and it's really benefiting no one, but that's up to each councillor. So that's why I haven't made it as strong as protecting parkland. But when you get the information, we could probably maybe make that decision then. But right now, I want to see all of the information and the facts and how the councillors bring forward their information on each piece.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Actually, no, I think the questions are finished from that side. The comment I would like to make is we do have parkland around that's perfectly flat. There isn't a tree on it, and that may be very appropriate to sell. Parkland has been set aside that are not needed, and we've done that before. So having a blanket policy, every piece of parkland we have is not like Sherwood Forest. I can tell you that, and I'll use your term, instead of Sherwood Hill. And so for us to, just arbitrarily respond to one particular request, I do not think we're being responsible in the position that you put us in. So I will never, I can tell you personally, I would not support a blanket or never sell a piece of parkland, because some of it may make a lot of sense. And quite honestly, you've even kind of introduced the liability factor. When we own land, we're liable. And so there are those considerations. I mean, people dumping stuff, whatever the case may be. So I'll support the motion the way it's written. And obviously we'll come back with more detail. I can tell you right now, I will not support a motion that is a blanket, will never sell another piece of parkland in the township of Springwater, because I think on my part, I'd be irresponsible, just so you know. So, any other questions? Councillor Austin?
Just clarification on the motion. The last paragraph, well, the one that I see on my sheet here, says that council determine the sale and/or protection of parkland once a report is provided. So am I to assume that we would get that report, say, on December 2nd, but then have time afterwards to make decisions on sale or no sale of this place or that place? We wouldn't be making those decisions on December 2nd. Is that correct?
I guess if we were comfortable to making a decision, we would, or we may defer our decision because maybe there's other information that's needed. CEO Brindley, were you going to comment?
Mayor French and Council, I think you're just going to see a general report of inventory and what's available or not. For the benefit of the residents and the audience, the council may make a decision related to one particular park at that time, but it's really open to council to digest that information and think about it. But I think also from this audience, you're hearing a sense of urgency.
Deputy Mayor Allen and then Councillor McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor French. CEO Brindley, will that report look at options, such as the option suggested by, I believe, Councillor Austin, to create trails and provide some upkeep to the park to remove the potential danger elements that were referred to? Will we be able to be given options through that report?
Theo Brindley?
Mayor French, to that level of detail, I would say no. If you look at the resolution in the study speaks to whether council wants to consider even the concept of selling or keeping our parklands. Already we're drilling down into an area that's a challenge. In each park, we'd probably have to do a month's work on each piece of property. Well, some less complex than others to look at risk management and those kind of things. But I think what council will see is essentially an inventory of all our parks. Which are the parks in terms of what they're zoning, what they are they wooded, are they not? And then from that, council can, either make a decision at that time, holistically, whether they want to consider the concept of selling parkland or not, because that's what the resolution was about. Or, and then also could, defer it to think more, because it is a complex issue. Each park has merits on its own. Each park, council could probably look at it right away and say, no. But I'm just saying that council at that meeting may want to consider, consider things in light of the delegation in front of them.
And also, I want to clarify something that has been greatly misinterpreted, misunderstood, or whatever the case may be. I'm not sure how, because if you read the verbiage in the report, basically, the Master Rec Plan simply was asking this council, decide what you want to do. It was not recommending the sale of anything. It was suggesting, we at some point have to make a decision. Do we retain certain properties? Do we sell them or whatever, which is an ongoing responsibility that the council of the day has. There was nothing in the recommendation saying we should be selling Sherwood Hill. There is no such recommendation, and that seems to be the way it was interpreted, and that just wasn't the case. Councilor McConkey.
I guess since I'm the mover of the motion, why it came up too is that why I'm saying to have the inventory is because it did in the Master Recreation Plan address 3 parks for sale. And so I just want to make sure before I make the decision, because I know last term in council, Doran Park was up for sale. So, and we had a motion to stop the sale of Doran. So my fear is yeah, I could make a decision pretty easy on those 3 parks if I had the information, but I want to make sure I've got the information on all the parks that could be suggested for sale. I'm not saying every park, like if you don't feel that a certain park should be sold, like it's an active park, I don't want to spend staff's time on it, but I just want to make sure that there's no more, like next term of council, I'm going to hear of another park and be going through this again. I'd like to be sort of content with the parks that we have in place today, which ones are the options for sale, so that I'm not piecemealing it. And that was sort of where I was heading with the inventory.
Actually, to help staff, I just wondered, because in the recreation report, it did have 4 parks, I think it was referencing it. Is that really where we need the information?
If that's all that's going to be recommended in the next 10 years.
No, okay, I'm getting a nod from the director, so no, we'll stick with the resolution the way it is. I just want a clarification. So any further questions on that? Councillor Hanna.
Just for clarification, Mayor French, I take offense, frankly, to the suggestion that there was misinformation or this was misunderstood. Recommendation number 70 simply states that the township should consider the 4 park properties that have been identified in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update as potential surplus. Utilizing that recommend criteria, the township should continue to evaluate other parks and any other municipal space properties to identify any other sites that may become surplus. Underneath the comments, it says that the 4 properties identified as being surplus are, and it lists them, the parks, one including Sherwood Hill. There have been reports to council regarding surplus parklands and vacant township properties in the past, looking for direction on whether the township should retain these properties or sell them. That comment is referring to what took place in the past, and that was in 2010, I believe, that report came forward to council suggesting those parks at that time, and that council of the day voted against selling those parks. So just for clarification, if you read it carefully, it's clear to me that there was no ambiguity, if you like, suggesting that nothing should be done. It was suggesting that action should be taken.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, we've heard the resolution. Everybody knows what's happening? All those in favor? Carried, and just so you know, that was unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And now we'll go to Councillor McConkey.
Moved by McConkey, second by Councillor Hannah, that the delegation from Alan Jackson be received.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Let's move on to previous minutes. Is there any of these that you want to comment on? Councillor McConkey.
You said previous minutes. Okay, so there's minutes from the hall board. Is that under what you're questioning?
No, that's the
Okay.
next item. Okay, seeing none, Councillor Coghlan.
Moved by Coghlan, second by McConkey. Thank you. That the minutes of the council item 6.2 to 6.4 be approved as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the minutes of boards and the committees, and did you want to speak to one, Councillor McConkey?
Speak to the Hillsdale community minutes.
Any others? Anybody wants to pull? Councillor Coghlan?
I also have a question on Hillsdale.
Okay. So is it just a question? Is it,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's see if we can do an all-encompassing. Okay, Councillor McConkey first.
What I have a question on is the community flowers. I think it's a great initiative to see that Hillsdale wants to put out some community flowers. Not sure, I'd like to understand a little bit more because it said that Lynn has painted 16 planters thus far. So are they doing something like a community, you know, a theme on these paintings, similar to what you'd see in Aurelia or something with different things? So it's, I want to know what that initiative's about. And also, it did say that going into the future, like to store them, but staff would be watering them. So I wanted to know if there's any cost associated to watering these plants, because I know that that's a big concern about the watering of the plants in Elmvale. So I wanted to see what the similar cost would be to water in Hillsdale, and would it require any summer students, or how it would be approached.
Director Belcourt.
Thank you, Worship. Through to Councillor McConkey. The planters that they are painting are the ones that were purchased numerous years ago for the village of Elmville. So essentially, they're just cleaning up the wire frames on them, so that there's no murals or anything like that. They're just black metal containers with that need to be repainted. As far as the watering goes, the question was posed to us at the community forum in Hillsdale, and we did support their initiative. We would utilize the existing summer student that we have watering in Elmville. It would just expand the program. Being that they're ground planters versus hanging baskets, they won't require watering as frequently as the hanging baskets do. So I don't believe there would be any additional costs to us as far as operating.
Councillor Coghlan?
My question was just about the green sign number, and I didn't know if it was put back up or repaired.
Director Belcourt?
Thank you. Through to Councillor Coghlan, I would have to look into that. The note was passed on to staff, but that sign's been run over several times.
Okay. No other questions on the minutes. Deputy Mayor Allen.
Moved by Allen, seconded by Ritchie, that the minutes of the boards, committees, and other organizations, items 6.6 through 6.9, be received as information.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And now we're on to item 7 on our agenda, if you're following us at home, and it's question period. And I invite anybody from the public to come forward. We like questions that are on the agenda, they're easier to answer, but we're open to any questions, so I just invite you to come forward. Please give us your name, address, and we'll try to respond to the best of our ability. I think we tired everybody out last night, so anyways, thank you. So bring your questions to the next one. So we'll move on to correspondence and information items, and there are 8 on the agenda. Is there any of these that anybody would like to pull or discuss? Councillor McConkey?
8.2.
Any others? Okay. Do you want to comment or, okay, why don't we comment before I call for the resolution?
For 8.2, I think, and I might have missed it, but I believe I heard that there was a movie or something associated to promoting the investment of Simcoe County, and I was just wondering when that can be shared.
No, that's a very good point. We could certainly get that from the county at any time, and I'll turn that over to CEO Brindley to make sure we get a copy of it, because I'm not sure, it might even be on their website, but we'll get it so we can get it for our own viewing, and maybe we'll take time. It's, I think it's less than 10 minutes, so maybe we'll view it actually at a council meeting. It's probably appropriate. Thank you. Is that the comment? Okay. With that, Councillor Hanna.
Moved by Hannah, second by McConkey, that the correspondence and information items 8.2 through to 8.4 be received as information.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to action reports. And the first is regarding obviously some self-storage, and maybe I'll turn to our planner for just a general comment, and we will then table the resolution.
Thank you, Mayor French. The report before council is seeking authorization for the mayor and the clerk to execute the necessary site plan agreements to facilitate the expansion of the Miller Drive mini storage or self-storage units. The site plan's been approved for quite some time, and this represents one of the additional phases for expansion. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions that council may have with respect to the report or the contents within.
I think we did have good questions in that at the public meeting on this, so, but if there's any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Kitty Austin, that the report from the planner regarding SP-2016-003 Dunlop Self-Storage dated October 19th, 2016 be received, and that the mayor and the clerk execute the necessary agreements once all technical aspects are addressed to the satisfaction of the township solicitor, consulting engineer, and staff.
All those in favor? Carried. And of course, we're going to ask for a moment of silence because the Jays did lose. Okay, the next one, I know we had a good public meeting on this, Phase 5 of the Snow Valley. Is there any further questions from council on this item? Seeing none, Councillor McConkey.
Moved by McConkey, second by Councillor Hanna, that the report from the planner regarding SU 2015-003, authorization to execute and register Snow Valley Highlands Phase 5, dated October 19th, 2016, be received, and that the subject to the advice of the township solicitor and staff, that the mayor and clerk execute the subdivision agreement to be registered.
All those in favor? Carried. So you gentlemen can go home now. Thank you. Yeah, or you can say, yeah. Okay, 9.3, action report on Elmville District High School. Maybe, obviously, there's good detailed reports. Everybody knows what's happening to a great extent, but maybe Director Belcourt or CEO Brindley, do you want to make some initial comments before we kind of table the resolution?
Mayor French, this report actually primarily deals with the request to exempt the site plan. It's just something we have done with schools in the past. It's really taking money out of almost the same pocket, if you will. And we do ensure that the compliance with all regulations is done through the building permit process. So there still is an eye of detail, an eye to watch what's going on, but to essentially the school board, we usually do exempt them from site plan.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor McConkey?
I was just, prior to this, I did talk to the Director of Planning and that, and my concern is the difference between building versus the site plan controls, because I know that the site plan controls can put stricter things on it, but I know it's more to do with not taxing, sort of alleviating the costs. So, but there was one comment that I would like to ensure is that maybe that we meet the safety and engineering standards of the municipality, that they must be met, because I just want to make sure sidewalks, all of that will meet our engineering and municipal standards, more for safety, like even the roundabout, where they pick up the children and that, if there's any redesign in that it meets our standards.
Maybe a Director of Planning?
Thank you, Mayor French. I guess one of the requirements of the recommendation from staff is that the school board be required to submit any engineering drawings or any site plan designs and whatnot to the township's engineer. As part of that process, those engineering standards and safety requirements will be reviewed to ensure that the site plan does meet municipal standards to ensure safety and that all engineering considerations are being complied with. That's picked up as part of the requirement for the undertaking from the school board.
Okay, is that satisfactory? Councillor Austin?
Moved by Katie Austin, seconded by Perry Ritchie, that the report from the planner regarding the Elmvale District High School site plan exemption request dated October 19th, 2016 be received, and that the Simcoe County District School Board be exempted from the site plan control process for the purpose of constructing a 2,697 square meter expansion of the Elmvale District High School, and that the Simcoe County District School Board prepare and provide an undertaking to ensure that any required reports and studies are provided, and that any fees related to peer reviews of supporting information are paid by the school board.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, telecommunication proposal. Obviously we have two options here. And maybe we can just have an overview from a planning perspective before we choose the option.
Thank you, Mayor French. What we have here is an options report where a request for consideration of a telecommunications tower was submitted in May of 2016 under the old telecommunications protocol. The old telecommunications protocol required certain notification requirements, a public meeting or a public open house. Based on the previous protocol, the telecommunications tower would have met all the parameters and criteria. Since the municipality has enacted an updated protocol based on the previous plan that was considered through the previous protocol, it appears that the location of the communications tower would not meet the criteria of that protocol. So the option before council is to either recognize the fact that the requested tower and the location met the previous protocol, or that the requested tower and location fall under the newly updated protocol, whereby the tower would not meet the minimum 120 meter setback from a residence provision under that protocol. It's really up to council to determine whether or not it feels that the updated protocol shall apply. One thing I will add is a representative from the telecommunications contractor, the person on the lead for the request is here. His name's Joel Swagerman. If council does have any questions, your worship, it's up to you obviously to decide whether or not you want to open the floor to the representative.
Okay, Councillor Hanna.
Thank you. My concern was with the height of the tower, 200 feet. It's 26.2 4 feet from the rear of the property and only another, I think it was 29 feet from the east side of the property. So you got a 200-foot tower, buildings around it, you're going to have people walking there. Any ice falling off that tower could be extremely dangerous. Who would be liable? Us for approving this, the federal government, or the owners of that tower?
Director Spagno, do you want to try and answer that?
Thank you, Mayor French, through you to Councillor Hanna. I really am not sure who the liability would rest with. I would have to think that it would be the property owner to which the tower is located on, or the actual communications provider. The thing to bear in mind here is that this is a federally regulated application. So as long as the provider of the tower meets those federal requirements, it's pretty difficult to determine where the liability would rest. What the municipality would be verifying in this case is whether or not the telecommunications company has followed the protocols by the municipality. So the approval actually rests with the federal government and those agencies, not the municipality.
If I may, because this doesn't meet our new protocol and we approve it, I can't help being concerned that there would be some liability for the township, if not a lot, because we are approving something that we now have identified doesn't meet our protocol, which is basically, if you want to say, our safety standards. So that's just my concern with approving this tower in this location.
No, and I think that's what option 2 sets up. Councillor McConkey?
I would also like to sort of go towards option 2. One, I can't understand why there was no residents out at the initial meeting, and that could happen again, but because of it being so close to residents and to other buildings, I would really appreciate if we could follow our new protocol. And I don't understand the fact that the liability, I think that that comment should be noted. And I know that we are not the authority that does it, but I think that those are good comments, and they should be noted to be passed on. And I think that issue we have to understand that, because maybe our if part of that liability, then maybe even our protocol has to change to be even safer. So, but let's just leave it at that. Just keep it as comments, and I'd like to go towards option 2.
Councillor Austin?
When I read this report, through Mayor French, when I read this report, I noted that I think it would be unfair for us to impose the new protocols when the applicant fulfilled all the old ones at the time, and when the federal government may overrule us in the end anyway. So, as I say, I think it's unfair to the applicant to impose things after the fact.
I guess I may have a final comment. I agree to a certain extent what Councillor Austin says, but one of the reasons we came up with our new protocol is because we were concerned about the liability of towers being on small pieces of property, that they could fall on other pieces of property. And that's why we did obviously kind of invoke this. And the reality is, I think we are practicing due diligence by kind of supporting option 2. Yes, you're right. Quite honestly, the federal government do whatever they want to do, but I think it shows that we're trying to be diligent and ensure that we're protecting the well-being of not just the residents, but their private property and that, by having a reasonable setback. We're simply suggesting, don't be building towers on small pieces of property where it could fall on another person's kind of building. So, I mean, I would support option 2 wherever this goes. Councillor McConkey?
Okay, moved by
Yes.
And I did ask this in advance because, again, I had similar thoughts, like option 1, we've sort of gone along. But then I believe because we do have the bylaw, option 2 is an option that wouldn't jeopardize us in any way. And also, I understand the original option when they did go out. Was it a different location than it is now. And I think that that's a key part of why I'm more comfortable with option 2.
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Mayor French, through you to Councillor McConkey. Originally, there was an application for the larger property that's known as the Miller Lumber property, which was located closer to the Miller Drive, Miller Drive, I guess would be the northeastern section of the property. Apparently, that tower, or that proposed location did not work because there was not sufficient hydro to actually operate the tower. So there was an issue with bringing the hydro. This has been revised, or it's a new location from that original one.
Okay, hearing that, Councillor McConkey.
Moved by McConkey, second by Councillor Hanna, that the report from the planner regarding the 702 County Road 90 telecommunication tower dated October 19, 2016 be received, and whereas the Township of Springwater has no legislative authority in the approval of telecommunication towers and are deemed by the federal government to be a commenting agency, be it resolved that the subject to all regulatory approvals and compliance required by Industry Canada, Frontier International, Inc., be advised that the Council of the Township of Springwater requests that the applicant revise its proposal to conform to the Township's newly updated clearance process for telecommunications towers 2016.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to action reports, and probably have lots of discussion. 9.5, review and comments on the growth plan. Technical comments. I hope everyone had an opportunity to review kind of basically the comments. And is there any questions of Director Spagnol? Well, that's pretty easy. Councillor Hanna.
Moved by Hannah, second by McConkey, that the report from the Director of Planning and Service regarding the coordinated review growth plan technical comments dated October the 19th, 2016 be received, and that staff be directed to prepare and submit township comments to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding the proposal growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe 2016.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the action report, Clean Water and Wastewater Fund. And maybe it'll go to, obviously, Director Archer for some overview and comments.
Well, thank you, Mayor French. Generally, this is a new incentive or a new program offered by the federal government. What is laid out in your highlights is that the township fund's eligibility is $341,000, almost 193, and cost sharing is 50% federal and 25% provincial and 25% township. Now, the projects that are listed within this report have to be submitted under the application by October 31st, 2016, and all the projects must be complete by March 2018. Some extensions are eligible.
Any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Katie Austin, that the report from the Director of Public Works regarding Clean Water and Wastewater Fund dated October 19th, 2016 be received, and that staff be directed to submit the projects listed as proposed for funding eligibility consideration under the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 9.7, action report on Ontario Community Infrastructure. Top-up component. Go to the Director of Public Works for an overview again.
Thank you, Mayor French. This is an opportunity presented through the Ontario government in trying to help communities with our small formula funding-based grants to apply for 90% of a project's eligible costs through the top-up funding cap, 90% of the project's eligible costs or the top-up funding cap, whichever is less. So we have last year unsuccessfully applied to the OSIF second intake for Ronald Road East through a council process. And again, staff is suggesting that this project be submitted again for consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, Councillor Coghlan.
actually do have.
Counselor Cog.
In the report, it states that the Kerr Street is nearing completion, and I'm just, right? I'm on the right one, yeah, 9.7. But the hydro pole's still in the middle of the sidewalk, so I'm just curious about that.
Through Mayor French to Councillor Coghlan, we are working with Rogers. It's a Rogers pole, and since, I think June, we have been asking for the relocation. And we have now a deal to get it done, hopefully before the snow flies.
Thank you. McConkey. Moved by Coghlan, second by McConkey, that the report from the Director of Public Works regarding the OCIF top-up component application dated October 19th be received, and that staff be directed to submit the Ronald Road East Road Construction Project for funding under the Ontario Community Infrastructure Top-Up Program.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 9.8, tile drain loan application under the Tile Drainage Act. Director Schmidt, do you want to make any comment from a financial standpoint?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Simply that the report tonight, you may recall that back in June, an application came forward by the applicant seeking council's approval of the application. Council approved the application. The work has now been completed, and simply now the individual is seeking approval of council for the funding. So that's what you see before you tonight, is seeking the funds.
Thank you. No questions. Councilor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. Moved by Perry Ritchie, second by Katie Austin, that the report from the Accounts Payable Coordinator regarding the tile drain loan application under the Tile Drainage Act dated October 19th, 2016 be received. That the mayor and staff be authorized to execute the necessary tile drain documents, and that the necessary bylaw be presented at the October 19th, 2016 meeting of council.
All those in favor? Carried. And so we have a meeting schedule, and one thing I didn't mention, unfortunately, to the public, and I'm not sure if it's still on the website, but we do have some forms out here. There was some question on adjusting the meeting schedule for next year, so if you want to kind of make your comments, that would be great. And I guess we will at some point decide and finalize what the times are. There's some suggestion moving it forward. Some of us are in favor, some of us aren't, and I guess we'll have an in-depth discussion. Councillor Coghlan.
I've been told not to mention this, but I'm going to mention it. So the idea that we have one newspaper to communicate with staff or with our residents, and knowing that our council meetings are on a Wednesday and it's published on the Thursday, often residents are getting our opinions before the meeting or what we think is going to happen, not what has actually happened. And I'm just curious if there's a way, I don't know what changes could be made, but I think that it's important that we utilize it to its fullest extent. And if it was on alternating weeks, we would be able to better communicate with our residents, in my opinion.
Okay. Councillor Hanna?
I like the Wednesday meetings, if that's what the suggestion is.
Oh, no, I like Wednesday.
Okay, that's good. And if we could get a hard copy of the schedule, that would work for me, because we have so many meetings. I need one under my pillow so I know what time to get up in the morning. It's just so many meetings. Thank you.
Councillor McConkey.
Yeah, it's a nice draft, but again, we have so many meetings. This looks good, but we know that we've got a lot more than this in the future. So the summer is very important to everyone, and I think that also that maybe a kind note would go out to the different boards to sort of say that council takes a break through the summer, and it's, you know, that maybe they would like to take a break. Like, I don't think some of them really understand that there can be a break period through the summer for them to spend time with their families. So it just might be a reassurance to them as well. I know Barrie had no meetings in the summer, and we are still, you know, going forward, but I think we have to go forward a little bit lighter.
No, I think that's a comment on the committees and subcommittees, because even at the county, a lot of the meetings are kind of postponed for the month of July when they don't have any meetings. So I think that could be passed on to the various boards and committees and working groups. So there is kind of that pause during the summer and less meetings. So very valid comment. Okay, so the meeting schedule, the resolution says, as far as the schedule, we're receiving and approving. We're not nailing down the time yet, is that correct? Okay, so haven't nailed the time down. That's something we can have further discussion on. So with that, Councillor Austin?
Moved by Katie Austin, seconded by Perry Ritchie, that the report from the clerk regarding the 2017 meeting schedule dated October 19th, 2016, be received and approved.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to information reports, staff reports. Is any of these that well, we're going to do obviously some of the verbal ones. So let's start with, I guess we'll do the official plan. Sorry, I jumped ahead. You're right. Okay, so nobody wants to discuss any of these kind of information. Councillor Coghlan?
I have questions on 10.3.
Anything else? Okay, is a comment or do you want to have a fairly good discussion because we can kind of receive the rest of them?
It would just be a couple questions.
Okay, well, let's see if we can do the questions and see if we have to pull it separately and any change. So please go ahead.
Thank you. So in the report, it suggests that there is, they're asking for a variance on the garage height. So from what I understand, it was 14, almost 15 feet is our bylaw. They applied for an application and got it approved at 16 feet, and now they want to take it to 28 feet. And I'm just curious for the purpose of it, and to have two 14-foot bay garages. I don't know if there's hoists that are going to be put in there or what storage is storage, and if they have giant SUVs, that's fine. But it was just reading, when it read that, however, upon further examination of their construction drawings, so to me, it's interesting that you would have to almost double your height by re-examining a construction drawing.
Director Spagno.
Thank you, Mayor French. Through you to Councillor Coghlan. The additional height has been, I guess, identified to staff that the height is needed to provide for enough clearance for a door for a motorhome and an RV. In addition, it's the understanding of staff that there's a number of off-road vehicles and whatnot that the applicants have to store. So the size of the building and the height is needed to store the equipment associated with their hobbies within the motocross sport.
Councillor Coghlan?
And follow up, it said the purpose of the bylaw was to ensure that the outbuildings or detached buildings were always smaller than the house. So my question is, why isn't it just a percentage then? Like, why do we have a flat 14.76 in the bylaw? If it's a larger home, why can't their garage be larger? Like, if it was a percentage, we wouldn't have these coming to council all the time.
Director Spagno?
Thank you, Mayor French, to Councillor Coghlan, through you to Councillor Coghlan. I guess there's different ways to deal with height provisions under a bylaw. The standard of the 14 feet is a standard that's been in the bylaw for quite some time, and it's measured to make sure that the height is accessory or subordinate to the main building. Through the official plan review and the township updating process with respect to the zoning bylaw, we can consider different ways to deal with height for accessory buildings. So that'll be a comment that we'll forward on for consideration when we have to update our zoning bylaw through housekeeping and through the conformity exercise. So I think it's a great point.
Councillor Austin?
Mayor French, I received an email reply from Planner Amy Knapp this afternoon because I had questions about, similar to Councillor Coghlan's, and I just want to make a note that the applicant, according to Planner Knapp, the applicant has recently informed us after the publishing of today's agenda that the height of the new detached garage will be approximately 22 feet and not 28 feet as applied for. The staff has circulated the new drawings to the committee members and will be requesting a revision to the application to reflect that change from 28 down to 22 feet.
Thank you for that information. So, since we're not changing anything, Deputy Mayor Allen?
Moved by Allen, second by Ritchie, that the staff report items 10.2 through 10.7 be received as staff reports for information.
All those in favor? carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to kind of verbal reports. Any official plan update, Director Spagno?
Yes, Mayor French, thank you. I guess the first update is that the comments of council have been incorporated into the communication strategy, and we expect to have that online shortly. One thing that staff is working towards is finalizing postcards for a township-wide mail-out for the first workshops to start in November. Staff are planning to have 3 separate workshops, one up in Elmville, one in Minising, and one in Midhurst, which is an additional workshop which is flows from council's comments with respect to the communication strategy. So council will be seeing postcards and things of that nature mailed out in the upcoming weeks to set up those workshops to get the OP review and update process moving.
And I think since we're talking about the OP, such as comments came about building sizes, possibly a percentage or even of size and height even, because I know one of the concerns was, even when I was on the Committee of Adjustment, some of the heights of it were inappropriate for the main residence. I mean, they were 3 or 4 feet higher. Obviously, if it's a 2-story home, that's probably not going to happen, but that's probably a worthy comment that we should be considering, maybe have more creative approaches and look at other kind of municipality official plans and see if they have a different way of doing it. But anyway, good comment. Okay, is that the update on that? Economic development updates, CEO Brindley?
Thank you, Mayor French. Not too much different than the past, but one thing, for the upcoming meeting, there'll be discussion around a pilot project for actually partnering with some cycle organizations to maximize the use of our trails, use of some of our parking lots so they can go on multi-day ventures. So that's something new because the trails are directed first up through the municipality, up through Elmville, and then either north or then to Wasaga Beach and then Collingwood or farther. So we'll sort of be the kickoff to those trips. And then we couldn't get it for this meeting, but in the November meeting, Mike Muxlow will be presenting on what's involved with marketing strategy. And that'll be an interesting session to hear from a professional about what's important for marketing strategy.
Okay, thank you. And county updates, maybe I'll go to Deputy Mayor Allen and see if he has anything exciting, and maybe I'll make some comments.
Let's see, anything exciting at county that we can talk about right at this point? There's lots happening. There have been discussions that have been occurring with this council, with our legal counsel, and there will be announcements and press releases coming out in the near future with respect to that, and that's really all I can say about that aspect.
And I think the other county, obviously, and we may have mentioned at the last meeting about, we've kind of deferred all the different kind of initiatives that the county is suggesting for waste management, so we can have a separate workshop to really think it through, because some of the impacts of changing the methodologies used today might have some negative impacts on residents, and may end up with more kind of garbage on our side roads. As you know, for example, I'm not sure how many bags we picked up on a laneway in Grenfell Road on a farm, but it was a significant amount of garbage that we picked up. And so we do whatever we do at the county, because they manage waste, we have to make sure we get it right, because we don't want to be filling our ditches and laneways with city garbage. Municipal updates. Any comments? Anything exciting happening? Councillor Hanna.
Thank you, Mayor French. I don't think it's necessarily a municipal update, but for those in council and staff that weren't able to attend the United Church of Midhurst this morning, they had an excellent presentation on the Greenbelt. And it was interesting. I believe that those who may have got the message, but I understand from what I recall that Simcoe County has no protection of any Greenbelt. We don't have any Greenbelt protection in the whole of Simcoe County, if that was correct. And the whole theme was the necessary to protect our water, our agriculture, farmlands, and the aquifer and our forests. So anyway, it was excellent. I thought I knew enough, but I found out a lot today that we should be more concerned about those things than we are.
Any other municipal thing? Councillor Austin?
I've heard comments that the ice at the Elmvale Arena is probably the best quality in this larger area. And I would like to let everybody know that public skating for adults from 1 to 3 on Mondays and Friday afternoons is an excellent opportunity to get some great exercise. I would encourage anybody who's doing that to wear a helmet for safety reasons. But there's a very small number of people there, so it's a great opportunity to skate safely as opposed to public skating where the kids can be a little bit more lively. And there are also opportunities for preschool skating, mums and tots. So I encourage people to make good use of our excellent ice at the Elmvale Arena.
And I guess the only comment is I guess the Public Information Center for the Midhurst Secondary Plan 3 and 4 environmental assessment is well attended last night. We had lots of good input, lots of questions that are coming back to the engineers and that. And I thank staff that were there to assist and answer questions. A lot of people actually showed up, right at the beginning, which is good at 4:30. I think there's people in there 25 after 4, which was good, and they kind of filled, and it was busy all evening, and really great questions. And also the decorum of everyone, I think, was very, very appropriate. People were there to get answers, and I think they got good answers. And a number of things came out of that I think we have to think about as we move forward and finalize whatever these assessments are. Councillor Hanna.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on that, I've received emails with people who have comments as a result of that. My question is, do I send them on to Ainley or to staff, or what should I do with them?
I'll go to CEO Brindley. I would assume possibly both.
Thank you, Mayor French, and to Councillor Hanna and anyone else who's listening. Actually, our webpage does focus on where the emails are. Actually, there are 2 specific email addresses to send them to. One goes to Ainley, one goes to us, but they're essentially the same front, but a different back part of the email. But please, either to Ainley or to us, or trust me, if you drop them off, we'll make sure they get to where they're supposed to go.
I think my email is just easier for some folks to find.
And just for clarification, the boards from last night, are they up? They are, okay. So they are on the website, and we do have a separate link, so you can update yourself with the 58 slides or whatever it was. So anyway, that's the only comments. Any other municipal? Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor French. I just want to comment on the our Elmvale Fall Fair Thanksgiving weekend. We had great weather. We had a great turnout. And we had our float in there as well, too, and we missed you, Jack. And it was great weather, well attended by everybody, so it was good all the way around. Thank you.
No, and actually a special thank you to Councillor Ritchie for supplying his side-by-side and his wagon, and staff here for making it look great, and it was a great day, and probably some of the best weather they've had in a long time. They didn't get any snow, which sometimes does happen on the Thanksgiving weekend, so thank you. Councillor Ritchie.
Actually, while we're on that note, I just wanted to thank Karen Todd for helping decorate the float. And she helped last year, she helped this year, and without her, I'd be totally lost. So anyways, just wanted to make a mention of her name, and she does a great job. Thank you.
And actually, we should comment on the volunteer firefighters come out and cleaned up your side-by-side while we were waiting, too.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, is there any items? Oh, Councillor Coghlan, sorry.
Sorry, just 3 quick points. The Anton Mills pumpkin launch and pumpkin carving has been canceled. It is the first time in 6 years on the Anton Mills Hall Board that I've had to cancel an event. Just due to low numbers. So I don't know if it's just a busy weekend for the residents or whatnot, but either that or I intimidated them with the plans for my catapult. So that, and we do have a community meeting in Anton Mills on Thursday night. It's open to everyone. And also the Minising Labor Day slow pitch tournament. No, it's a long time ago, but it feels like a long time ago. But the numbers are just coming in, and they were successful again this year in raising over $9,000 in that weekend. And it is spearheaded by a small group of individuals, but there are a lot of people that come in for that weekend. So again, just thank you to Carl Uoma, who runs the baseball side of it, and Wanda Ma Chapman, who runs the event side of it. So together they definitely bring a lot into that community. So thank you.
Thank you. So did I miss anybody? Okay. Let's go on to items for future consideration. Any additions anybody would like to put on the list? Oh, Councillor McConkey.
I would just like, I know that staff had talked about, and I guess I misinterpreted, but, you know, we talked about having community safety signs slow down for the children, and they look fantastic. They've put them under the community signs I saw as you go into Grenfell. It says slow down or whatever, watch. Yeah, so some of the big community signs. I thought they were going to be the little signs that I could give out to some of my residents, because there are still some residents probably on Seaton Road who would like to see a bit of a slowdown. So it's just a little message thing. So I would like maybe if we could consider some type of budget towards each ward, you know, like I don't know how many signs, what's applicable, like 300 to start for next year, that if when a resident says, I've got a lot of speeding on my road, watch out, a lot of children, we can say, well, try this sign. It's just, just another way of traffic calming, and I think that we need to sort of get it out in the budget. Barrie has them very plentiful. I don't think we need to be that plentiful. That's why, but I'd like to start with something.
Okay, put it on the list. Councillor Coghlan.
Sorry, Councillor McConkey's comment just made me think of something. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion in Phelpston. Floss Road 4 is becoming an issue. I don't know if it's just because of the high traffic. Is there an opportunity to speak with business owners? I know, not have bylaw go out, but do we have an ongoing relationship that I'm not aware of where, I don't want to drive in myself and be like, hey, slow your trucks down. But is there an opportunity for that? Because maybe the owners are not aware of the situation if they outsource. So, but particularly it's becoming an issue right now on Floss 4. I do know that the Stanley speed sign has made its way out there. So it's recording right now, but just maybe if there's anything else we can do to assist the residents in helping make that a little bit safer for the residents, that'd be great.
I guess there's no particular reason, because there's only a few large gravel haulers and that in the area, that maybe we could just send them a nice polite letter from administration. CO Brindley?
Yes, thank you. Mayor French, what we'll do is I prefer not to be on our list for future items because that gets huge, but by all means, we can, solicit those primarily pit owners and everything along that stretch. My worry is the problem's probably more broad. It's bigger than that. The problem is it's essentially a through road to the back way to Wasaga Beach. So there's a lot of other traffic that uses that corridor. So by all means, we can send something out on the corridor. It's just those that we can't touch. That's my concern.
And thank you for the clarification. It's not an item for future consideration. I was just curious about the current procedure and what we could do. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hanna, the bylaw.
Moved by Hannah, second by McConkey, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and the clerk.
All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Coghlan.
Moved by Coghlan, second by McConkey, that the bylaw 2016-59 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on October 19th, 2016, listen here, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried. And Deputy Mayor Allen.
Moved by Allen, seconded by Ritchie, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:55 p.m. to meet again in a regular meeting on November 2, 2016, 6:30 p.m. in council chambers.
All those in favor? Carried. Meeting adjourned, and thank you for anybody that stuck with us at home. And good night, everyone.